John and Steve, fueled by curiosity and a spirit of adventure, decided to explore the haunted cornfield on the outskirts of town. Armed with flashlights, they set off as evening fell. At the edge of the field stood a scarecrow, its tattered clothes and burlap face stitched into a sinister grin. The dark eyes seemed to follow them as they approached. "Ready?" John asked, trying to sound confident. Steve nodded, though his voice betrayed his nerves. "Let's do this." They stepped into the cornfield, the stalks closing around them, muting the sounds of the outside world. As they ventured deeper, an eerie silence enveloped them. Minutes turned into hours, and the boys felt lost in the maze of corn. The whispers began softly, growing louder with each step. "Turn back. Leave this place," they seemed to say. Suddenly, Steve stopped. "John, look." Ahead, the scarecrow stood, though they had left it at the entrance. Its eyes glowed faintly, and the grin seemed wider, more malicious. "We need to get out of here," John urged, fear creeping into his voice. They tried to retrace their steps, but the path had changed, twisting in impossible ways. Panic set in when the scarecrow appeared again, closer this time, its eyes burning brighter. It seemed to move, though neither of them had seen it do so. "How can it move?" "It's not possible," Steve murmured, looking at John with wide, fearful eyes. Desperate to escape, John and Steve ran, but the cornfield seemed to close in around them. The thick, rough stalks narrowed, forming a living wall. They stumbled into a clearing, where the scarecrow awaited, its arms outstretched. Its eyes now glowed intensely, emitting a sinister light. "Why are you here?" A cold, hollow voice echoed around them, though the scarecrow's stitched lips did not move. "We didn't mean any harm," Steve stammered, his voice trembling. "We just wanted to see if the stories were true." The scarecrow's grin widened impossibly. "Now you are part of the story," it whispered. The ground beneath them shifted, and skeletal hands emerged, dragging the boys into the earth. Their screams were swallowed by the night, leaving the cornfield silent once more. The scarecrow resumed its place at the field's edge, its eyes dimming, waiting for the next curious souls. Ethan and his girlfriend, Emma, decided to spend their summer vacation at Ethan's grandparents' old farm. The farm, a nostalgic relic of Ethan's childhood, sat nestled in a quiet countryside, surrounded by rolling hills and a vast cornfield. The farmhouse, though aged, held a charm that promised a peaceful retreat from their busy lives. The day they arrived was beautiful. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden hue over the endless rows of corn. Birds sang cheerfully, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. As they unpacked their belongings, Emma noticed something odd about the cornfield. "Ethan, why isn't there a scarecrow?" "I've never seen a farm without one," she remarked. Ethan shrugged. "I'm not sure. Maybe Grandpa took it down before he passed. It is strange, though." Shrugging off the curiosity, they decided to explore the farm. The day was filled with laughter and shared memories as Ethan recounted tales of his childhood adventures on the farm. As dusk fell, they settled in for the night, unaware that their idyllic getaway was about to take a terrifying turn. The next morning, the sun rose, but the cheerful atmosphere from the previous day was gone. The air felt heavy, and an eerie silence hung over the farm. Ethan and Emma noticed the change immediately. "This place feels different today," Emma whispered, her voice tense. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, it's like something's watching us." Determined not to let the strange feeling ruin their vacation, they decided to spend the day exploring the cornfield. As they walked through the tall stalks, they found themselves increasingly uneasy. The further they went, the more the corn seemed to close in around them, creating a sense of claustrophobia. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a patch of bare earth in the middle of the cornfield. In the center of the patch lay a crude, wooden cross, as if marking a grave. On it hung a weathered sign that read, "Beware the curse of the farm." "Ethan, what is this?" Emma asked, fear creeping into her voice. "I don't know," Ethan replied, equally unsettled. "I've never seen this before." As they stood there, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The corn around them rustled violently, and a cold wind swept through the field. They turned to leave, but the way back seemed to have disappeared. Panic set in as the sky darkened, and the temperature plummeted. Out of nowhere, a deep, menacing voice echoed through the field. "You shouldn't have come here." Ethan and Emma clung to each other, their hearts pounding. They could see no one, but the presence was undeniable. Before they could react, a swirling vortex of dark energy engulfed them, lifting them off the ground. Their screams were drowned out by the howling wind as the curse took hold. When Ethan and Emma awoke, they found themselves back at the farmhouse, but something was terribly wrong. Their bodies felt stiff, and their movements were slow and awkward. They looked at each other in horror, realizing their skin had turned rough and burlap-like. "Ethan, what happened to us?" Emma cried, her voice raspy and unnatural. We've become scarecrows," Ethan replied, his voice filled with despair. As they tried to move, they found themselves drawn irresistibly toward the cornfield. The evil spirit's curse had transformed them into living scarecrows, bound to guard the farm for eternity. They were forced to watch over the crops, their bodies rooted to the ground, unable to leave the field. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Ethan and Emma's minds remained trapped within their scarecrow forms, tortured by their helplessness. They could see, hear, and think, but they were powerless to escape their fate. The farm, once a place of fond memories and laughter, had become their eternal prison. The evil spirit had claimed them, ensuring they would serve as a warning to anyone who dared to venture onto the cursed land. And so, the beautiful summer day that began with hope and joy ended in horror and despair. Ethan and Emma, now living scarecrows, stood silently in the cornfield, their presence a grim reminder of the farm's dark secret. They would forever guard the land, their souls tormented by the malevolent spirit that had claimed them, warning others of the dreadful curse that lay hidden within the seemingly peaceful countryside. Jake, Mike, and Tom, three adventure-seeking friends, decided to explore the cornfield on the outskirts of town. On a sunny afternoon, they ventured into the midst of the tall stalks, laughing and joking about how odd the scarecrow looked that guarded the crop. "Wait till I take selfies with her," joked Jake, making obscene gestures towards the scarecrow. Mike laughed heartily. "I hope she doesn't get too offended." Tom shrugged. "I don't think scarecrows have feelings." As they amused themselves, they reached the scarecrow, a dry, straw-filled figure with closed eyes and arms crossed. They started taking funny photos, posing in comical positions next to it, completely ignoring the silent warning of the place. As they laughed and joked, a dark shadow crept over the cornfield. The wind suddenly died down, and the air chilled abruptly. Jake looked up, feeling an unsettling presence. Then, with a terrifying shock, They saw the Scarecrow's eyes snap open. "Let's see who's laughing now," a whispered, guttural voice echoed around them. Terrified, Jake, Mike, and Tom tried to run, but they couldn't move a single finger. Paralyzed with fear, they were helpless as the Scarecrow's hands slowly lifted and began to squeeze magic out of all three. By the time the sun had set, the only thing left of the three boys was a row of pumpkins lined up in the cornfield, and the Scarecrow, with its eyes now dark and glowing, returned to its position, waiting for its next curious victims. Therefore, cornfields and especially scarecrows may seem amusing at first glance, but they conceal some very creepy secrets. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video for more episodes. I am the mysterious narrator, and we'll see you in another episode.